Last season, Newcastle qualified for the Champions League, but this summer, it feels like nobody wants to play for them. They just lost Isak to Liverpool, and they spent the entire window chasing a replacement, only to be rejected by every single target. So today, I'm taking over Newcastle for the next 10 seasons, trying to stabilize this club and make them one of the best teams in English football. And as I become Newcastle manager, there are 4 objectives we must complete. The first one, of course, is to win 25 trophies throughout these next 10 seasons. I want Newcastle to become one of the most decorated clubs in the country. The second objective is to find Isak's replacement by having a striker score 100 goals for the club. And that isn't going to be easy, considering Isak is probably Newcastle's best ever striker, only behind Alan Shearer. The third objective we must complete is to win 3 Champions League titles. Winning 3 UCLs will put us above every Prem club other than United and Liverpool. And the final objective we must complete is turn a Prem flop into a Ballon d'Or winner. One of my favorite Newcastle players of all time is Hatem Ben Arfa. However, he was a huge flop, so if we could get somebody along those lines and win them the Ballon d'Or, that'd be incredible. However, it isn't going to be easy with FC26 around the corner. We will be using their new edition of unexpected events, and that is going to make things almost impossible to make Newcastle a top club in the Premier League. And I can't lie, even if everybody rejected Newcastle, they've made some pretty good signings. Anthony Elanga was absolutely ridiculous for Nottingham last season, and Jacob Ramsey is just a great signing. But of course, we cannot forget the big man Walter Made in hopes that he could become the next Alexander Isak. However, it is time for our first unexpected event, and that event is star player has his ego bruised, as Nick Pope has requested to be transfer listed because he doesn't want to play for a team nicknamed the Reject FC, and we will have to replace him. So Nick Pope has gone ahead and left the club to join Chelsea for 16 million, while I sold a couple more players and loaned out our youngsters. But now we must solve the issue of replacing Nick Pope, and right away our first option is already at the club, and that is Aaron Ramsdale, who's on here on loan from Southampton. However, I think we need to sign a world-class goalkeeper, and of course we do have 150 million to spend. Not only can we buy a world-class goalkeeper, but we can maybe sign a world-class striker to replace Isak, and also sign that Prem flop that will win the Ballon d'Or one day. The first option we do have is probably the best player we can get, and that is Kobo from Borussia Dortmund. However, he is worth 110 to 138 million, which will eat up our budget and we won't be able to sign other players. We do not want to go the world-class route. There's the option of Andrew Lunin, who's sitting on the bench at Real Madrid and would love some game time. Another option we do have is Emiliano Martinez, who wanted to leave in real life. However, he literally just signed a new contract that I don't think Villa would sell us, because we are probably their biggest rivals to get that 5th spot for the Champions League. So that leaves us with our final option in Mike Maignan, who's playing for AC Milan. The question is, what goalkeeper should we sign? And my decision has been made. For 69 million, we're bringing in Mike Maignan, as I believe he is the perfect keeper to take us to 25 trophies. And now as Mike Maignan joins us side, I do have a small issue. I do not want Nick Watemade to sit on the bench, especially because he was around 70 million. But the question is, we have so many players that I want to be in the starting 11. I'm not sure if there's a formation. And as I change the formation to a 4-3-3, I've come to the realization there must be a sacrifice. And that sacrifice is going to be Joe Linton. I know he's one of the Newcastle greats. However, Walter Made is the next generation, and he needs to be playing every single minute possible. And I really do hope Joe Linton is fine being a rotational player. However, we do still have 68 million to spend on players. But the question is, do we need anybody? Well, for the time being, I want to give Johan Vissa a chance to be the replacement for Alexander Isak to score 100 goals for the club. But we definitely do need a backup striker, as Osula was loan listed. We need to sign somebody new. However, I had an interesting idea. What if our backup striker is one of the Prem flops that we need to win the Ballon d'Or? And quickly, I found a bunch of options of Prem flops that play up top. The first two being Man United flops and Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford. However, I think Anthony Martial might be a little bit too old, and Rashford is also out on loan, so we can't sign him right now. A third option is Nico Jackson. However, just like Rashford, he's out on loan at Bayern. And that leaves us with 2 options. Darwin Nunez, however, he just got a move to Al Hilal, which leaves us only with Moise Kean. But the question is, will he be fine with a backup role? Regardless, for 48 million, I've decided to go for Moises Kean. It is a huge amount of money for a backup striker. However, if it goes well, he can knock down 2 birds with 1 stone by being the striker that replaces Isak and being the Premier League flop, which he flopped at Everton, and win that Ballon d'Or. And now this squad is looking so much better. We're still missing Alexander Isak, Isak, but I think we could contend for our first trophy this season. And it seems like Johan Vissa has worked out so far with 28 goals. Realistically, he could get to those 100 in the next couple seasons, while Nick Watamade has a pretty decent debut season, and Moise Kean was a decent backup. And some more great news is that we do have a lot of young players, and they are starting to grow. Just take a look at our fullbacks in Livramento and Lewis Hall. They're both at an 81. Van Botman back from injury is now at an 84. And yes, Fabian Schär is going down, but Malik Thiaw has matched his rating, and he is the future. But sadly, we do not win the Premier League, but 4th place is still pretty incredible. However, we failed to win the FA Cup. We also failed to win the Carabao, and if we do not win the Champions League, we have 0 trophies this season. And yeah, of course, we were not gonna win the UCL in this first season, as somehow we got knocked out by Villarreal of all teams. Regardless, with this team, I think the Newcastle project is in the right direction. And now in season 2, Johan Vissa is an 83. I do not expect them to grow at all. And of course, this team is looking incredible. However, we are missing a couple players. I definitely think we could use a backup goalkeeper because John Ruddy is not Prem ready, as well as a backup right back because other than Tino Livramento, we have Emil Kraft and Ashby who are not cut up for the Premier League. However, it's time for our next unexpected event, and this event is terrible. When you're big, you're big. Liverpool have come in for 2 of our players in Sandro Tonali and Anthony Gordon. They have claimed they don't want to play for Newcastle ever again and want to join the current Prem champions. However, the club has requested we replace them before we accept those offers, and with 198 million, can we find a brand new world-class left winger as well as a center mid? And the first 2 players I immediately wanted was either Pedri or Declan Rice. However, Newcastle just don't have that pool. That's why Isak left and why Gordon and Tonali are leaving. So I think if we want to sign players like this, we first of all need to win our first Champions League. However, I did find 4 alternatives to the other 2 players, and Ezekiel Palacios, Angelo Steller, Scott McTominay, and Kevin Turam. And you know what? Scott McSauce does interest me, and to be honest, I'd consider him a Prem flop because Man United shipped him out of the door. So as good as Steller and Palacios are, I think I'm gonna go for Scott McTominay and see if maybe he can be the one to win the Ballon d'Or. So for 55 million, we're bringing back Scott McSauce back to the Premier League, and as Scott McTominay joins the side, Sandro Tonali's offer has been accepted and he has gone to Liverpool. But of course, we still need to replace Gordon so he can also leave because there's no point if he's not gonna play for us. However, I'm gonna wait on the world-class left winger and sign that backup goalkeeper and backup right back first. So for 55 million, I brought in Philip Jorgensen from Chelsea, and he is the future keeper of this club. And for 18 million, I bring in Julian Araujo to be the backup for Livramento. And now with 85 million left to spend, is that enough to sign a world-class left winger? And immediately, I found the perfect replacement in Savinho, who did not end up joining Tottenham. However, he is worth way too much. He would have been the perfect signing. So that only leaves me with the last 3 options in Jeremy Doku, Martinelli, and Ademola Lookman. Jeremy Doku is the backup left winger at Man City. However, I'm not a big fan that he is not the best finisher. We also have Gabriel Martinelli, who hasn't really worked out at Arsenal and could be considered a Premier League flop. However, I'm looking for somebody more close to their prime, and I think that player is Ademola Lookman. Only worth 44 million and in his prime at an 84 and has amazing shooting. I think he is the perfect signing. So for 55 million, I'm bringing Ademola Lookman to Newcastle, and he was a huge flop at Everton, so technically he would count as a future Ballon d'Or winner. If you think Lookman's gonna be the Ballon d'Or winner, make sure to subscribe. And as Ademola Lookman is our new left winger, Anthony Gordon has now left to Liverpool, and I think this team is still at a good place, but let's see if we can win any trophies this year. And it seems like we made the right signing. Lookman scores 24 goals. However, Johan Vissa brings his account to 51 goals, is already halfway to 100 goals and replacing Alexander Isak, while Moise Kean only scores 4 more goals. I don't think he's gonna be replacing Isak or winning that Ballon d'Or. And the growth of this squad is looking absolutely incredible. Both of our wingers are back to an 85 overall. Scott McTominay has become a world-class midfielder, now at an 85. And let me tell you, our defense is looking absolutely incredible. However, Nick Watamade is really disappointing me, only at an 80 overall. But did we at least win our first trophy? And yes, we have won our Premier League title, our first trophy to our name. But we failed to win the FA Cup, and we also failed to win the Carabao. And once again, our team isn't good enough for the UCL final. But we did improve drastically, getting knocked out by Madrid in the quarterfinals. But we now add our first trophy to our name. And now in season number 3, I have made a decision. And that decision is to give Nick Watamade 1 more season. If not, I am going to replace him with a world-class attacking mid. But regardless, it is time for the next unexpected event, and that event is Jordy Pride. From this moment forward, you must start Lewis Smiley in every single game and make him the captain of the club. As a Newcastle Newcastle owners want to prove to the world big superstars could come from Newcastle. And I'm gonna be honest, boys, this isn't the best news. Lewis Miley is a brilliant talent. However, he simply isn't ready for Champions League nights, especially being the captain of the club. However, there is some great news. We have 230 million to spend. And I can't lie, 10 goals in 2 seasons, even as a bench warmer, is not good. So what I'm going to do is sign a superstar striker to compete with Johan Vissa and get rid of Moise Kean. But before we sign a world-class striker, I noticed we need a backup center back as well as a backup left back. So for 35 million, I brought in Fran Garcia to back up Lewis Hall. And for 45 million from Chelsea, we bring in Wesley Fofana to be the backup to our 2 brilliant center backs. And in terms of world-class striker, I do have 2 options. The first option being Sir Bobby Hendrick. I think he'd be brilliant for this Newcastle environment. However, even though we won the Premier League, we still don't have a pool to bring a youngster from Real Madrid to Newcastle. But maybe once we win our first Champions League, he could be the one to replace Isak if Vissa can't do it. So that leaves me with my only option, Ollie Watkins. And now that we've won the Premier League, surely Watkins won't want to play for Aston Villa no more. So for a straight swap of Moise Kean, we have brought in Ollie Watkins. And as Ollie Watkins joins the side, I hope we can still win trophies with Lewis Miley being the captain. And Nick Watamade needs to step up. If not, he will be leaving Newcastle United. And boys, things have gotten interesting as Ollie Watkins has scored 40 goals, 41 more goals than Johan Vissa, who now has a total of 70 for Newcastle. However, the likes of Lookman and Elanga continue to shine as well as McTominay. And Nick Watamate gets 7 goals and 3 assists, now at an 83. You know what? That's a pretty good season and decent growth. I'm gonna give him another chance. And this amazing squad continues to grow as Lewis Miley is now at an 83. Huge upgrade from him this season. Sven Botman and Malik Thiaw are 85s now, and Tino Livramento at an 86. However, Lewis Hall just got replaced by Fran Garcia, who is now a higher overall. I hope Lewis Hall can come back to the starting 11. And yes, we win back-to-back Premier League trophies, and we make it 3 trophies with the Community Shield, make that 4 in total with the FA Cup, but we failed to win it all in England with the Carabao. And in the UCL, once again, we did not reach the final, but we're getting so much closer, losing in the semis to Paris. And our job at Newcastle is looking great so far with 4 trophies. Johan Vissa only 30 goals away from 100. But of course, we're yet to win the Champions League and get that Prem flop to win the Ballon d'Or. And we're kicking off season number 4 with the unexpected event. And that event is Saudi Raid. 2 Saudi Arabian clubs have come in for 2 of your starting 11 players in Mike Maignan and Johan Vissa. And those offers have been accepted. They will be leaving the club immediately. However, you are not allowed to bring in replacements this season, as we do not want to break FFP rules. And boys, this is terrible news as Maignan, one of the best goalkeepers Newcastle has seen, and Johan Vissa leave to Saudi Arabia. Johan Vissa was 30 goals away from completely replacing Alexander Isak, and it makes it even worse that we cannot replace those players. The good thing is Ollie Watkins, our top goal scorer, has remained at the club, but a huge problem is we do not have a backup goalkeeper. 1 injury to Jorgensen, and we could be seeing relegation for Newcastle United. However, in terms of other signings, I would like to sign a backup winger for Lookman and Elanga, as we only have Cordero, and another backup center back as Fofana is the only one left to back up Botman and Malik Thiaw. So for 30 million, I'm bringing in Desiree Doué's brother, Nguela Dure, who is going to be the backup center back. And for 100 million, I'm bringing Antonio Nusa from Leipzig to be the backup and future replacement for Ademola Lookman. And losing Maignan and Vissa does weaken our side, but I still believe we can win trophies this season. And what is going on? William Osula was a top goal scorer with 30 goals. How did he get this much game time? However, Watkins does add 19, which gives him 59 goals, halfway to 100. And the growth of this squad is looking ridiculous, man. William Osula went up from a 75 to an 81. He might have to start from now on, I cannot lie. Antonio Nusa has surpassed Lookman in overall, meaning he's a brand new left winger. So it seems like Lookman won't be the Prem flop to win the Ballon d'Or. And for a 3rd year in a row, we've won the Premier League, and we win our 6th trophy with the Community Shield. But we failed to win the FA Cup and failed to make it 7 with the Carabao. We have reached the pinnacle, the UCL final versus PSG. Can we win Newcastle's first ever UCL? The first of 3 we need to win, and it's a 3-0 win as Nusa and Watamade become Newcastle legends. We win our first Champions League. And yes, we have gotten a Ballon d'Or winner in Antonio Nusa. However, he is in a Prem flop, so that objective is still intact. But I will take having a Ballon d'Or winner. And now in Season 5, things could not be better. And as we're waiting for our unexpected event, I don't think anything can stop us from getting to 25 trophies. However, I was completely wrong as the unexpected event is winger bust up. Antonio Nusa has been flexing his Ballon d'Or win to the entire squad, and it created tension in the locker room, which led to Anthony Elanga saying something, and they both got into the brawl, and now the owners are forcing to sell either Antonio Nusa, the Ballon d'Or winner, or long-term servant and Anthony Elanga. And boys, this is a terrible and difficult situation. Nusa has been the best player since Isak to join Newcastle because he won the Ballon d'Or, but Elanga has been a loyal servant to the club for a good 5 seasons. I'm not sure what decision I have to make, and the tough decision has been made. Antonio Nusa, the Ballon d'Or winner, is leaving for 180 million. I had to do that because if I sold Elanga, who knows how many more players we would have lost if they see that I don't value loyalty. And now without Newcastle's only Ballon d'Or winner, Lookman is back in the lineup. However, with all the money we made, we can now sign superstars because we won our first Champions League. And I found the perfect replacement. For 95 million, we're bringing in Kavica Kvaratskhelia, the first superstar to join Newcastle. And as Kvaratskhelia joins the lineup, like I said, I want more superstar signings. However, something I seem to have forgotten about is that Premier League flop winning the Ballon d'Or. Other than Ademola Lookman, there's not a single player in our squad that could be considered as a past Premier League flop. So I'm going to try to make that a priority within these 3 positions I'm trying to sign. So boys, I have found 4 options in Prem flops to play in the attacking mid position. Now the first 2 options are a bit controversial in Alejandro Garnacho and Omari Hutchinson, while the other 2 in Emil Smith-Rowe and Angel Gomez just never became the huge English superstars the world once thought. So controversially, for 50 million, Alejandro Garnacho is joining Tyneside, but Garnacho winning the Ballon d'Or is very far away, as first he needs to take down Walter Made, who I don't plan on benching soon because he's been absolutely incredible. But now it's time to sign our world-class center mid and, if possible, a center back. So for 82 million and 88 overall, Mark Guehi joins Newcastle, and for 150 million, an 87 rated Chris Rigg playing for Arsenal has joined Newcastle United. And as the new signees join the starting 11, I am trusting William Osula to be the starter from now on. I firmly believe he will be the striker to get 100 goals. But now, with possibly the best team in world football, we must continue to win trophies. And this time, Kvaratskhelia is the top goal scorer. However, with Osula's 24 goals, he now has 54. But don't forget, Ollie Watkins is now out of 77. He can still be the one to get the 100 goals. However, Garnacho had a better season than Walter Made. He is definitely starting next season. However, there is bad news as Watkins is retiring at the end of the season. So it seems like it's all up to Osula to get to those 100 goals. But this squad continues to look incredible. Kvaratskhelia now at a 90. Osula now at an 85. Mark Guehi's about to hit that 90. And like I mentioned before, Garnacho has overtaken Walter Made. Garnacho's on his way to winning that Ballon d'Or. And for the first time in a while, we miss out on the Prem, but we win our 8th trophy with the Community Shield. And we failed to make it 9 with the FA Cup, but we make it 9 with the Carabao. And make it 10 with the International Cup, but we could not win the Club World Cup. And 11 trophies to our name. The UEFA Super Cup is ours. Did we defend our UCL trophy? And no, we did not reach the final, as we got knocked out to Milan in the quarters. But now with 11 trophies to our name, Watkins has retired, which means Osula's 46 goals away from hitting that 100 goal mark. And we're starting season number 6 with our unexpected event, and that unexpected event is FFP rules have been broken. The Premier League has given Newcastle a transfer ban due to all the unfair spending that was given last season. That means no signings this season. And you know what? It does suck that we can't make any transfers, because I would have liked to bring in a backup goalkeeper, because we still haven't. And maybe another world-class left back, as Lewis Hall hasn't really grown as much. And if we really want Osula to get to 100 goals, I think we need to work on his dribbling so he can dribble past players and score even more. So for this season, we're giving him the False 9 development plan. And in terms of Garnacho, it's a little bit different. He already scores a lot of goals, but we need him to assist more by increasing his passing. So he will be receiving the advanced playmaker role. Let's go win more trophies. And once again, Kavica Kvaratskhelia with 44 goals and 11 assists. He is our brand new best player. William Osula adds 27 more goals now with 81 for the club. Oh yeah, he's definitely gonna be the one to get those 100 goals. And of course, the squad continues to grow as Garnacho's now at an 89. He's winning the Ballon d'Or the next time we win the Champions League. And yes, we are back to winning the Premier League. We also win the FA Cup, but we failed to win the Community Shield. But once again, we're in the UCL final against against Juventus where we can win our second UCL. But can we go ahead and win our second UCL trophy? And it's going to be a 2-0 victory, winning our second Champions League trophy. And we did get another Ballon d'Or winner. However, it's Ivica Kvaratskhelia. I'm very happy for him, but I wish it was Alejandro Garnacho. So that means the objective still needs completing. And we're kicking off season number 7 with our next unexpected event. And it's FC Barcelona and Real Madrid raid. Barcelona and Madrid have bids accepted for 2 players each. All 4 of those players being from the starting 11. With Barcelona signing Elanga and Jorgensen, while Real Madrid have poached Tino Livramento and William Osula. This is what our lineup is left with after winning the Champions League. We don't even have a goalkeeper, man. But of course, replacing them will be hard, especially Osula, who was only 19 goals away. And now that objective is starting from the very beginning. But great news is we have 600 million to spend, which means we can sign 4 superstars to replace the 4 superstars that left. For 110 million, we bring in Retses from Bayern Munich. For 51 million, we bring in Connor Bradley, also from Bayern Munich. For 100 million, the replacement for Elanga is Ito Nwaneri. And the man to replace Osula, the man that will get 100 goals. For 185 million, we bring in Sir Endrick Bobby Charlton. He will not be leaving the club. I will make sure of that. And we did lose 4 superstars, but we gained 4 superstars, as this is what the squad looks like. Let's win our final Champions League. Let Endrick get to 100 goals. Have Garnacho win the Ballon d'Or, and let's get to 25 trophies. And what did I say? 59 goals in 60 appearances. Oh, he's definitely breaking that as quickly as next season. But Kvaratskhelia, Chris Rigg, and Nwaneri have great seasons, as Garnacho is really getting those assist numbers. And this team continues to exceed my expectations. However, I think we need another center-back partner since Malik Thiaw hasn't gone up, and the rest of our backups haven't grown past an 86 overall. But overall, our team is looking amazing. Of course, we won another Prem title. We also win the Community Shield for 16 trophies. But we failed to win the FA Cup, and we lose in the final to Brentford in the Carabao. But we win the International Cup, making it 17, as well as the UEFA Super Cup, 18 trophies. But sadly, we did not reach the Champions League final, as we got knocked out to Barca in the quarters. And now with 18 trophies to our name, we need 7 more, and we will have the 25. And to begin season number 8, I mentioned that I do want to sign another starting center back, but I also think we need a left winger, as Kvaratskhelia and Lookman are on the wrong side of 30. And if we want to win our final Champions League, we need a young and pacey winger. But before that, of course, we do have an unexpected event. And the unexpected event is throwback to the old days, and that is to bring one ex-Newcastle United player and make sure he starts every single game throughout the season. So the question is, do Newcastle have any good ex-center backs or left wingers? And as I looked around, there was only 2 options, and Anthony Gordon and Elliot Anderson. And now with Anthony Gordon, it's the same issue as Lookman and Kvaratskhelia, over the age of 30, and he's not even better than Ivica. However, Elliot Anderson is a shout, and that is because I can switch things around and move Chris Rigg to that center attacking mid position and convert Alejandro Garnacho to that left wing, meaning Elliot Anderson could perfectly start next to Lewis Miley. So that's exactly what I did. For 30 million, we are bringing back Elliot Anderson, who, to be honest, should have never left. But of course, I said we needed a center back, so for 100 million, Dean Huijsen has arrived at Tyneside. And the new signings have now joined the side, as Chris Rigg has changed his position, and so has Garnacho. 7 trophies left to go, 1 UCL left to win. Let's do it. And yes, Endrick has done it, 55 goals, which puts him on 114. He is the replacement for Alexander Isak. But just take a look at the rest of the side. Nwaneri, Chris Rigg, Elliot Anderson as well, and Garnacho have been incredible. The question is, how many trophies did we win? And yet again, we win the Prem, and we also win the Community Shield, which makes it 20 trophies. But we failed to win the FA Cup, but we win the Carabao Cup. That's 21 trophies, 4 left to go. And boys, we are in the Champions League final. Win this, we win our final UCL, and need only 3 more trophies. But the question is, can we keep our 100% record in the UCL final? Which I believe we do have, and it's going to be a 3-1 loss. This was a chance to complete another objective. But of course, no UCL wins means nobody wins the Ballon d'Or, as we have 2 seasons left to win 4 trophies. Get that Prem Flop Ballon d'Or winner in Garnacho, hopefully, and win our final Champions League. And now in season number 9, this could potentially be our last, with all of our objectives in reach and could be completed in just one season. But the next and possibly final unexpected event is payback for Alexander Isak. We are allowed to steal one Liverpool player for absolutely free to get vengeance for what Liverpool did to us 9 seasons ago. And boys, let me tell you, there are so many options of players to sign. I think the only option is a 30-year-old 92 overall rated Florian Wirtz, their best player, just like they did to Newcastle before. So for 120 million, vengeance has been served, as Florian Wirtz will be our new number 10 as we chase our last 4 trophies, last UCL, and push Garnacho to win that Ballon d'Or. And just look out Wirtz in the new Newcastle kit. If you want these in your career mode saves, check out Road Kits in the link of the description. And as Florian Wirtz joins the side, let's win it all with this brilliant Newcastle side. And what a season for Garnacho. 57 goals, 15 assists, now in his prime. If we can win it all, he is winning that Ballon d'Or. And this could potentially be the final lineup of the entire takeover. Most of these guys will be going down as Newcastle legends. And we get our 22nd trophy with the Prem. Make that 23 with the Community Shield. 2 trophies left to win. And it's 24 with the FA Cup. And it's 25 with the Carabao Cup. We have completed that objective. And we are now in the UCL final against Barca. Win this, we complete our UCL objective, and surely Garnacho will be the Prem Flop Ballon d'Or winner. But the question is, can we beat Barcelona, the team that took Jorgensen and Elanga from us? What's it going to look like? And it's a 6-4 victory, as Garnacho and Anderson scored double, and Noneri and Endrick secure our 3rd and final UCL trophy. And of course, Garnacho wins the Ballon d'Or. If you guys have enjoyed this video, click on the screen and watch me take over Man City for the next 10 seasons.